I think that there's been a real issue with a lack of middle class jobs, and that's definitely impacted um, those who are hungry. It also impacts their decision between trying to choose like medications and food for their family. So as jobs are declining, families are having to make choices, and sadly, meals are definitely something that they've chosen to scale back on. I never really thought about the challenges that people with various illnesses have to face when choosing between their medication and proper nutrition. Somebody who's struggling with cancer or with HIV cannot eat ramen noodles every day, and with the sodium levels and different things, it's not the nutrition that they need to get well. I think sometimes teens in general think so big picture, like, oh, they have to go to another country to help out, or they have to do like a major, like a global type scale project. And it's just getting them to realize you don't have to go real big. You can go really small, start something little, and find a particular niche that you're interested in. So maybe you're interested in helping veterans or senior citizens, like really focusing on a particular population of people who you're interested in serving, and then from there finding organizations that would benefit most. And then maybe it's once a month I'm gonna make a donation of this amount, or I'm gonna use $10 instead of going to Starbucks or QT, and figuring out what I can buy and provide to that particular nonprofit with a small amount of money.
So the first thing we do is we provide food to anyone who comes to us. So if you come to us and you live outside of our service area and you don't have a church recommendation, you are still going to leave here with a box full of food, including some protein items and some fresh produce and some bread and peanut butter, so that you can get through at least 3 to 4 days. And we also will provide you with the phone number of several food pantries that are closer to your area that can serve you. If you live in 63123, you can come and get food from us once every 2 weeks. And we provide about 10 days worth of food every 2 weeks to our families. Well, the first issue with hunger is obviously it affects your physical ability to live your life. If you're hungry, you're going to be more sleepy, it's going to be harder to stay focused while you're at work or at school. We see this especially with school kids having a harder time focusing on their lessons and hearing what the teacher has to say. When you add to that the stress going on in an environment where there's hunger at home, you're talking about job loss, potential medical issues. There's a lot more stress, especially on young people who can really react in negative ways behaviorally in the classroom as well. I think the biggest thing that got me was when I was interviewing a client in early 2009. My husband was working at Anheuser-Busch at the time, and we had gone through the takeover with InBev in late 2008, and a lot of people lost their jobs at that time. My husband's job was okay. We were lucky to have made it through that time period, and about 2 months later, I was sitting at this desk interviewing a family that had not made it through that. And they were okay for a couple of months, but the severance wore out, the mortgage still needed to be paid, the kids still needed shoes and clothes, and I knew in that moment that the difference between me and that person was just the pure grace of God. at any point I could find myself in that seat. And that's what shook me more than anything, was the reality that we're all right there. We're all the same. There really isn't a them versus us. And that's the beautiful part. My favorite part about the Afton Christian Food Pantry is that we really get to know our clients, because we spend 15 to 20 minutes with them every 2 weeks. And so we're talking to them and getting to know them on a true human to human level. And when we do that, we see that food insecurity can happen to any one of us, and that we all just need to pitch in and help each other out. We're all children of God. It's so interesting for people to realize that right here in their own neighborhood, there are people who are hungry. So the first thing is to just be aware, and then very simply not to waste food. When there's an opportunity not to waste it, don't. And I love the example of the Bayless Middle School cafeteria lady who saw kids throwing away unopened cartons of milk and juice, and she simply set a container aside and said, if you don't want it, set it here. And she brings it to us once a week, and we're able to get that food where it needs to go. So not wasting food is a big part of it. And then get engaged in your community. So find a pantry near you and offer to volunteer. There's always a need for someone to help with stocking or marking cans. At the Afton Christian Food Pantry, we take volunteers at the age of 6 if they come with a parent. We take them once they hit their teen years. They can come on their own and volunteer with us. We have volunteers well into their 80s, late 80s. So there's always something that you can do for your part of life. And then of course you can donate. You can donate food and you can donate funds, and both of those can be used to help alleviate.
Well, it started, I guess, to get really bad when the economy went bad. It was a Great Recession. People were in problem paying their bills. They had, in so many cases, the food stamp program doesn't adequately fill all their needs. Like in St. Vincent de Paul, of course, this has been a great. We still do food for shut-ins, but the pantry's takes that burden off us in St. Vincent de Paul, and we work primarily in utilities. If you're cut off, you've got a problem. You can't live without electric and gas. So that's our focus on. And thanks to the pantry who we support, they feed a lot of our clients. We refer them here as a referral. We know that food, but we'll always have food. So it's been a great source of helping needy families in this particular pantry. Same people we help go here. I mean, this is a basic. And then we take care of the rents and who are in need or getting evicted or are getting their gas or electric cut off. So it's really complementary. As far as what causes it, and people are unemployed, it's probably the main factor. Or in some cases, they're on disability. They can't work a steady job. So it's a combination of things. Food is, for us, because of the pantry and all, is probably we never have enough problem getting food from somewhere. There's a lot of food pantries. This is one of the best in this area. And I think what people don't realize, 63123 is not exactly inner city in a poverty area. It's the inner ring suburb. And he said, well, those people aren't hurting. But we have a lot of apartment dwellers. Most of them we help are apartment dwellers. And they're paycheck to paycheck. And they got a couple kids on play. And what happens in a lot of these families, where it's a 2-income family, and they're paying their bills, even if they have a mortgage, one person loses their job, and they got problems. And they wouldn't be referred to as poor in the classical sense. Where's my next meal from? They're not down in Skid Row, but they are poor and they have a difficulty feeding their families. And there's a lot of folks like that during the recession, particularly. And but getting a job and holding it is critical. And I guess the Lord said, "The poor will always be with us," and it's probably true. And some, it's probably their own bad choices, but a lot of it is really beyond, their faults. I have a great sympathy for the working poor, who are working, and making $9, $10 an hour, right? And they can't support their families, and it's a lot of those folks. And even if the pantry takes care of the food, that's one big major bill. They can pay other bills, their rent or utilities. So it works hand in hand. So we had a lot of working poor. And people don't realize it a lot. And that's where I have great sympathy for.